Hey Panthers, Happy New
Happy New
Year!
Year.
Welcome back. It's good to see everyone around the building. Hopefully, break was restful, refreshing, and all of the great things that holiday breaks
Absolutely.
usually are.
Spent time with family, ate some good food.
Yeah, yeah, slept
Yes.
slept a little bit, relaxed a
Yes.
little bit. That's always a good thing. So, I don't know about y'all, but it's basically the last week of instruction that
Hmm.
we're hitting this week because we've
Absolutely.
got GCFE starting next week, and then we got EOC starting at the end of next week. So be on the lookout for those testing notifications. So this week we were thinking that what could we do? We could talk about what are some ideas that we can do during this last week of instruction. Because
Hmm.
I don't know about y'all, but like this is kind of the time that some students like start showing up,
Yeah.
right? And if
I'm
they
ready to work, teacher.
yeah, right. I'm ready to work now. It's like, oh, where you been for the last 80 something days? But as I love to remind myself, I'm going to keep the door open as
That's
long as
it.
possible.
That's it.
It's up to them to walk through
That's
it,
right.
right? And whenever they decide to walk through that door and show up,
Come on in.
I'm gonna be ready for you with
Yes.
all that I can. So let's think about like first thing, like what are the resources,
Right.
right, Miss Wilkerson?
Yeah. So, what are the resources that you're using with your students as you go through this week? If you're an EOC course, if you're a GCFE course, CTE course, what are you using? Teacher made exam. What are the resources that you're using to make sure it's aligned to what that final exam is going to look like? How are your students going to prepare to use those resources? And then how can they take ownership during this time? Remember, this is a time where they are not you are not teaching,
Mm-hmm.
right? You might be teaching little misconceptions, but you're not doing the bulk of the teaching. So I want you to think about those resources that you're using, pulling them in. So you can pull from NCDPI, which we have linked below. You can also pull from your Performance Matters, from
Mm-hmm.
your IAs. You can pull from any of your classroom assessments. If
True.
there are any of your tests that you took and you said, okay, the students really didn't get this question, well, then we need to make sure that question is up for review. And then think about how you are reviewing. What are the testing words that you're going to use? You need to have that list, and the kids need to know exactly what each words mean. If it says select all, they need to know that they are
Yeah.
selecting all and not just one. So give them those multi-test item types. So you have your numerical entries, depending on your test. You have open response.
Yep.
You have multi-select. You might have a drag and drop on your
Mm-hmm.
assessment. You
Yeah.
need to make sure students are able to see those before the assessment.
And that's why, again, remember everybody, we want to make sure that everyone does those practice tests, those
Mhm.
tutorials that
Mhm.
are available both on Performance Matters for GCFEs and through the NC Test
Mhm.
app for those EOC courses and CTE courses. All right. So make sure that we do have those done because that is a requirement that
Right.
students do those. The other thing that I'm hearing as well is making sure that like the practice that we have the students do
Mhm.
lines up with what they're going to be doing at the
Right.
end. Right.
Right.
And making sure too, like this is a time that I used to kind of go back through my folder and my lesson
Mhm.
plan book and kind of say like, oh, that was a heavy hitting lesson. We
Yeah.
did a lot that
Yeah.
day. So how can I maybe throw pieces of that back at them, maybe in a different way to
Mhm.
have them kind of doing the thing
Mhm.
as opposed to me doing the thing. I used to say to them, oh, here are our key standards. You make me a lesson
Exactly.
on these standards. You teach it to me so that we can kind of engage in that work, right? And then that gets us into that second thing of really kind of understanding where the students are right now.
Mhm.
There might be students that are chronically absent that have been in and out, but some of those students are maybe pretty smart. They
Yeah.
have a good head on their
Yeah.
shoulders. They've got some good information. So I might think that student is way far behind,
Mhm.
but then they come in, they take a practice final. I'm like, whoa,
Mhm.
you're actually a lot better. Like,
Mhm.
oh, okay, maybe you were just kind of disengaged because you were bored, and that was kind of
Mhm.
driving maybe the lack of attendance. So having that accurate picture at the beginning of this time really allows me to put them maybe in strategic
Mhm.
groups, to think about that student's pathway to success on the final
Mhm.
exam, and then also kind of making sure that they can kind of understand what they're doing and why
Mhm.
they're doing it,
Mhm.
right?
And then also thinking about what are those essential skills that they need. Prioritize your standards. Which ones do I need to hit first? And then which ones can I kind of trickle down and hit? Think about which standards are supporting other standards that we can kind of review together,
Mm-hmm.
so that we're not using a lot of time teaching each individual standard one by one. Remember, we have already taught the content. Now is their time to show us exactly where they are, what they can do, and we are just merely just walking
Right.
around and hitting misconceptions, just pointing it out, fix it, tweak it, do whatever you need to do, and then push forward.
Yeah, and keep in mind too, everybody, that just because you have those practice tests, it's kind of a formative
Hmm.
kind of structure here,
Hmm.
right? We're just using this to kind of, so could they do them in groups?
Hmm.
Yeah, of course they could. Could they do it in stations? Could they do it over a course of a few days? Those release tests can be
Hmm.
really, really great to kind of provide that structure.
Hmm.
And then remember, at the end of the day, everybody, at the end of the day, they're the ones taking the test,
Yes.
right? They're the ones that have to demonstrate their knowledge. So they should be the ones that are really doing a majority of the
Hmm.
work at this time, right? I used to kind of, I remember beating myself up year after year after year about, oh, I got to make the best review game. I got to
Hmm.
make this. I got to make this. And then I said to myself, wait, hold on. Can't they do
They
that?
can make it.
Can't they make the
Hmm.
review game?
Hmm.
Can't they make some of the practice questions? Can't they do some of those things? And that then created this space where instead of just having one review game,
Hmm.
there were 5 or 6
Yes,
different review
absolutely.
games. And I could then kind of put those out to the various students, and we were all learning from each
Hmm.
other, which was a beautiful thing that was happening in my room.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So remember, the students are leading. They can do it. I like the idea of the review games. There are different platforms that you can use. There may be some in your current platforms that have those options for creating. So make sure you're using those as well. And then think about this last week. Let's make it meaningful, but let's also be strategic about what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want to be all over the place. We want to make sure that we are mapping out exactly what our scholars need, and getting it to them so that we can get the best bang for our buck.
That's right. And remember, everybody, it's not necessarily about proficiency with some of
Mhm.
our students. For all of our students, it's about growth. For some of our students, it's about proficiency. But we need to make sure that everybody is here to test so
Mhm.
that we get that accurate picture and so we get as close to that 95% participation rate. So remember, communicate, communicate, communicate.
Yes.
Be sure that you're posting that calendar that I sent on your Canvas page, reminding students of what their exams are. I do have the rosters for the seats, so we
Mhm.
do know what rooms they're going into, and those should be posted around the building in the not too distant future. So again, communicate, communicate, communicate. Make sure kids know what their exam is, when it's going to be, and again, what they are going to need to do on that exam, because
Mhm.
those are important things for them to know. Down
Mhm.
below, everybody, our resources. Again, Ms. Wilkerson mentioned the link to NCDPI's released exams for our EOCs. For those of us that are non-EOCs, Performance Matters is probably going to be your number one
Mhm.
stop because you've got lots of IAs in there, you've got learning snapshots for other courses, you've got some released GCFE exams that are available in there as well. Remember, don't give them the actual GCFE as the practice test.
Right.
That's not the thing to do. For my AP friends, don't forget AP Classroom. AP
Yes.
Classroom is a great tool as we're working through the review. We've also got a curriculum mapping strategy that some of you might find really, really helpful to kind of show the students in a visual way what Ms. Wilkerson was kind of talking about, the way that certain standards kind of group together, or the way that one standard leads to another, leads to another, leads to another. And then lastly, everybody, it's actually the first one, but reverse operations. We've got a course evaluation form. This is a great tool to use. It's kind of a selfish tool. It's for us more than it is for them, but it gives the chance for the students to kind of put their voice out there, to
Mhm.
give you some feedback about your course, and then you can take that feedback moving forward to the
Mhm.
next year. It's really important to make sure that they have that space where they can share their voice, but also that we can take the information from our most important clients, which is our
That's it.
students, and give the next group more of what works for those
Mhm.
students, right? Those course evaluations are really, really helpful there.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
So I think that wraps it up.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Everybody, we're going to see you around the building, of course, like we always do, and we'll see you at the 13th for the faculty meeting coming up. Have a great first week.
Yes.
Have
Happy review.
happy review, and we're almost done with this first semester, everybody. Let's make second semester even better than the first. Have a great week.
Bye.
Bye.